I want to introduce myself to you all. As I mentioned, I know some of you, and some of you are new faces for me. And then we want to have a chance to introduce ourselves as a team here with Remnant Counselor Collective. So, my name is Dr. Brian Fiddler, and I'm a counselor therapist, LPC, LMFT out of Joplin, Missouri. And I've been running a practice for 15 years or so, and then I'm also an assistant professor of counseling at Colorado Christian University. And I know we have some other CCU faculty here this evening, as well as students. So really exciting to see you all. And I'm going to pass the baton to the other colleagues of mine. Luke, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. Yep. So my name is Luke. I actually see several classmates. I've been in class with several of you at CCU. So I actually just recently graduated from CCU in December. So I'm a new grad in the middle of licensure application. I live out here in Kentucky. And so navigating that whole process of applying for licensure and all those things. And I'll be working as a LPCA for a private practice out here in Kentucky. We're we're a Christian practice, but we work with clients of all different faith backgrounds and what have you. And so it's great to just kind of like I've got like a bunch of colleagues here who are Christians and kind of working from this kind of integrative perspective. But it's so interesting, how we're all in here doing therapy. We never see each other. So even though there's like people right down the hall, we're all here working all day and rarely interact. So just a unique part of our profession. But yeah, it's a joy to be here with you guys tonight and to share a little bit about what we're working on. And yeah, excited to meet some of you.
I'm Dr. Andrew Wichterman. I know a lot of you too. I've been teaching I was doing the math. I think it's 13 years now and practicing for 18. And we'll get into my loneliness as a part of reason for this, for the catalyst for starting this. And then you can.
And I'm Melissa Wichterman. I've also been a licensed counselor for just about 15 years. It'll be 15 years this spring. And I've worked in a variety of settings, started out in community mental health, and then more recently I've been in more of a private practice, group practice in a Christian setting. And so variety of experiences there.
All right, excellent. Well, just kind of thinking about what a way to kick off our conversation for this evening. All of us are impassioned. We trust that you're here for very similar reasons that we are, that we're impassioned to minister to people, help people, serve people in all kinds of various capacities that we have and that God kind of calls us into. And I know for me, I came into the field of psychotherapy with really nothing more than the idea that I want to help people. I want to show up for people in some fashion. And psychotherapy seemed like a field where you could do that and get paid at the same time. So I signed up, and why not? And since then, from the very first class that I had in my master's program, I fell in love with the field and just that there is this world where people can come and have their souls, their relationships, their hearts, their lives really cared for. And I think a lot of my own kind of experience in walking with people is shaped by what I feel Jesus is doing in the world, and that there's so many ways that we could talk about that, and we need to talk about that. But for me, a couple of passages that I go back to repeatedly that help me to understand a lot when I'm working with clients of what they are facing and my role maybe with them and walking with them come from Isaiah 61 and the passage here that Jesus quotes in Luke 4, referring to, among other things that Jesus says, I've come to heal the brokenhearted. You may remember the passage. Heal the brokenhearted, proclaim freedom for the captives, give sight to the blind, announce the year of the Lord's favor. and just the mission that we have in the world, in the kingdom, has something to do with this profound and beautiful work of restoration and redemption, that we get to be a part of and are invited to be a part of, with the Lord. And so, whatever work, sites, or capacities or clientele we may see or are hoping to be able to see soon if we're students, I'm sure all of us have different stories of being impacted or drawn in, or hope at least to be able to have an impact in the kingdom and in the lives of people. And if you've been in the field for any length of time, you are, or students, you're already aware of the dangers and kind of pitfalls that are out there, uh, in terms, especially of isolation and burnout, and some other things that I'm going to pass the baton on to Andrew to share.
So when we were putting this together, I decided to look up some research, and there really isn't much on connection for therapists. There isn't much on whether we're lonely or not. There's a lot on secondary trauma and burnout, but loneliness, there's not much at all. And so what we've noticed over the years, and what Melissa has particularly noticed in me, is there's this loneliness and it ties to burnout. And we found that new mental health professionals, that's what that MHP stands for, are unsupported and isolated on a regular basis. Especially if you don't get a good supervisor, or you don't have a good supervisor that's involved with you. And then you have the other end of this, where if you've been around a while, Christian counselors are treated with suspicion in many of the churches, not all of them certainly, but many of them. And then there's a certain amount of hostility by the mental health field. If you've gone to ACA conference or an ACES conference or any of those, you'll notice some of that. And so this is what I was able to find just in the research. If we can use that to define a problem, it's that loneliness strongly predicts depression and anxiety. And for the helpers who don't have much help, that becomes a big problem. And so then you see nearly 49% of healthcare, that's across the board, that's not just counselors, report burnout linked to loneliness. And then 80% of individuals with psychosis experience loneliness. So if you already have a diagnosis, it just makes everything worse. So there are effective interventions that they found, and lo and behold, it's similar to what we're proposing here tonight, that co-produced and community strategies are helpful specifically for therapists or mental health professionals. Emotional regulation, loneliness is linked to maladaptive coping strategies, so it's hard to manage your emotions when you're lonely. Lack of support fuels compassion, fatigue, and stress in healthcare workers. I know I've felt all of these in my 18 years. And then loneliness stems from personal, community, and societal factors. So I don't know about you all who've been practicing for a while, but I found it difficult to fit in at church. And Dr. Fiddler and I have had this conversation before. You kind of expect people to have the listening and conversation skills of a therapist, and they just don't. And so it makes it really hard to connect sometimes. I found it especially true for guys. So we have burnout affecting up to 67% of therapists, and we're harming clients because of it. So this is not just about us. This is also about our clients. We kind of see this as 3 levels of blessing when we do this remnant. So we have high workloads, low autonomy, inadequate support system, emotional demands that drive burnout. And I think if you go back to that first slide that I talked through, it's that we don't feel supported by our communities that we are in, whether it be secular or public therapy setting or the church. We don't always feel supported. I know it's not completely true all the time, but it's enough of a trend that we've decided we want to do something about it. So then the relational impact, detachment from clients, strained professional relationships are common. You see this in many, many practices. I don't know if we ever really put much definition to it, but I see it all the time. So
if we,
oh,
yeah, Andrew, do you want me to jump in with?
is this where we're going to do the conversation? I thought I was supposed to keep.
Yeah. So we, we are just kind of appreciating that we have so much invested in this field. We each are pouring tons of time and emotional energy and money into becoming experts in our field to be able to help people. We can speak to all of the really good reasons that we have that we're moved to make a mark in the world through this profession, these respective professions. And then when we're in the field, we have both research and our own anecdotal evidence to suggest there are real challenges for us because we are, what do we say? Brennan Manning has a line, speaking of Christians, he says, we are not travel agents handing out brochures to places that we've never been. Like we travel the road of being a human being. And in fact, I think the best therapists are those of us who know what it's like to be a human being who struggle with things like isolation and burnout and overload. And before we get any further down the road to really looking at solutions for us to protect us so that we can carry out the work that God's called us to do, we want to hear from some of you regarding your own stories. What is, if you want to share maybe a quick experience of either being in your respective field and experiencing isolation or burnout or just the struggle around trying to be well and take care of yourself so that you can reach the clients that are in front of you. Anybody have any experience with any of those? We'd love to hear. And feel free, Luke, you may have a better way to do this, but I would say feel free to raise your hand.
Well, I wonder if we'd be open to breaking out into some smaller groups. And that way you guys can kind of discuss it a little bit amongst yourselves in a smaller group. Is this kind of the time frame where we want to break off, or are we hoping to do that later?
Yeah, that would be great. Let's do that and spend 7 to 8 minutes in the small group, and then we'll kind of process as a large group for a couple of minutes afterward. That sound good?
Yep. So I'm going to set this to automatically send everybody back here in about, we'll call it 8 minutes. Okay, that'll give you some time. I think there's going to be about 8 people per room. All right. So a small group, but hopefully around a minute per person, just kind of quickly share some experiences. And not everybody has to share. But does that sound okay? Melissa, Andrew, Brian? Okay. All right. So we kind of quick pace here, but a good chance to just connect on a little bit of a smaller level there. All right.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I know that can be a little abrupt when you're in the middle of sharing something and then you're yanked back into the main room. I really appreciate what I was able to hear and share in the breakout room I was a part of. I wonder if we could take just a couple of minutes here, and if one of you would be willing to share maybe something you shared in the group about, to the whole group, maybe an experience that you've had, where what isolation or burnout or the struggle to take care of yourself in this field might be like, and then maybe one who could share a success around this. This is how I am taking care of myself in this field. Does anybody want to jump in and share? Feel free to you can raise your hand or you can turn your mic on and just jump right in.
I can jump in really quick. Very easy sentence.
You
I
bet.
experienced burnout and internship too that almost took me out of my program. I became a wellness researcher. And when I, about a semester before I graduated, I started running interpersonal processing groups for counselors in training to help create communities where people can be supported. So I've had both the
Amazing.
strain of my own personal burnout and the experience of working with others to help prevent the same in them.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kimberly. Appreciate that. We have time for one more. Anybody else want to jump in?
I can jump in. I lost contact. We lost contact with our faith community before COVID because of racism being exposed, so we haven't found another faith community. But the success thing was when I started my with the mental health counseling program,
Mhm.
the peer support and the faculty, the prayer that they have, and then also too we joined some prayer groups, like online prayer groups that come every morning. That we get up every morning, like about 5:45 every morning, and participate with the telephone prayer group. So that's been very
Mhm.
helpful.
Mhm. Awesome. Sally, thanks for sharing that. So the experience of losing connection to your faith community and then kind of regaining that through these prayer groups, it sound like are really um, helpful, maybe life-giving then for you.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate that. Well, I know that we all have, our own stories of, just our experience of kind of being in the field and the challenges before us. I'm going to pass the baton on to Melissa, if you want to share a little bit more about isolation and burnout.
Yeah, I think this is still me actually.
Excellent.
So we'll roll with this.
Do it.
You see there, it says burnout rates range from 21 to 67% with emotional exhaustion most common. These are all describing my life. Experience 10 to 50% depersonalization, 60 to 47, low personal accomplishment. The low workloads, low autonomy, poor organizational support drive burnout. So you think about the average private practice, unless you have a real well-organized one, it describes many of them that I know. And then you have systemic therapy reduces burnout, boosts personal accomplishments. So that's the helpful. Let's keep going here. So reflective relational approaches improve stress management and self-awareness. That's what we're trying to do here. Reduce burnout enhances professional satisfaction and personal relationship. Your life gets better. Tailored interventions addressing individual and organizational needs are critical. So, I mean, this is all describing what we're trying to do, which is makes us feel good. Long-term strategies and systemic changes ensure sustained benefits. So the idea is once you join a group, whether it be here or somewhere else, it's a good idea to stay with them long-term. Okay, now this is you, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's me. So it's a privilege to be here tonight. I would really say the Lord gave me just a vision for what we're trying to do with Remnant. This last summer, I was obviously I am a counselor and I'm married to a counselor, and so not only seeing risk of burnout in myself, but also seeing it reflected in Andrew. He's been open about that already. Just how being in this field can wear us out. How there's the need to take care of ourselves, but sometimes it's hard in the midst of family life, in the midst of work, to be able to do that well. And especially, and I wonder if this is true, and Brian, you could probably speak to this as well, but I know especially for Andrew, just the struggle of making friends and being social, because so much of his work takes the energy out of him. And it's hard to fill that. I think for myself, it's been easier to make friends, and I think women more naturally have deeper conversations. And so that expectation around deeper conversations that can come as a result of having them all day long throughout the week, I think maybe comes more natural for, in general. Obviously that's not true across the board, but in general, more true for women. And so seeing those struggles in Andrew was a part of that. I was reflecting last summer just on my career in the field, and just maybe wondering if God had something in addition to the work that I was doing, and for me to do in the coming years. I've really enjoyed my time working in the field. I've always been part-time because we have kids. And so I was reflecting on that, reflecting on his struggle, also just noticing how much I valued conversations with other therapists that were just in friendships, and how some of those friendships were able to connect with a part of me in a different way than some of my other friends. A year and a half ago now, my mom passed away. And so walking through grief as I'm also caring for others, was a challenging time, and being able to talk with other counselors who had also walked that same path was just really meaningful to me. And so that, in addition to seeing some of the camaraderie among the Andrew's colleagues out at Colorado Christian University, and just reflecting on the sweet times of fellowship that he reported having, all of those things just kind of came together as I was praying last summer about God's direction for us. And the idea came to my mind of, what if we could create a virtual community? Because a lot of these people I'm thinking of, as I talk about those times of valuing that connection, are spread all over the country. So thinking, could we create a virtual community that would allow us to have more regular connections, and be a blessing to many in the field, who, largely, as we've already shared, it's there's a lot of isolation and a lot of loneliness. And so I shared this idea with Andrew, and he had kind of been thinking about something a little bit similar, and so he thought it was a great idea, and he wanted to invite Brian to join us because he appreciates Brian's perspective. And so we were starting to meet and have conversations, and in the meantime, Luke got wind of what we were doing, and he had a similar idea, and had really the kind of the back end, behind the scenes stuff available in terms of developing the website and things like that. And so God really just brought our team together to create to create Remnant, and to hopefully offer a solution that will allow us to reduce some of the loneliness and isolation for other Christian counselors who are in the field. And so that's really our goal, is to be able to provide a means of connection, a resource, not just professional. There's a lot of, I think, resources out there professional, but also at the personal level, to be able to care for one another, and to help fill some of those needs that many of us share together. Yeah, and so I think, as we've shared this, we want to invite those of you who've already, expressed interest in what we're doing to help us shape this community. We really want it to be a blessing. We want to be able to meet the needs that you all have. I mean, I think many of you are students or recent grads, and we're so, we both experience, well, all of us, Brian, I know you had jumped in on that conversation too, but Andrew and I have often talked about how little support we had as we were first graduating and finding internships, even, and just all the things, getting licensed. And so to be able to be a resource for both, current students, new grads, and then those more seasoned who, again, have experienced years in the field, but it wears us out. And so to be able to really provide that connecting point, no matter where you're at in the journey, is really our goal.
Yeah. So we would like to kind of share a little bit more like detailed insight into how this is all going to play out. And Melissa shared a bit, just as she was kind of going through our story. I'll kind of expound on that a little bit from my perspective. So as I shared at the beginning here, I'm a new grad, so just finished my program at CCU. And I was at residency 3 in Colorado, just right before my final semester. And they were talking a lot about like how much you're going to miss, being able to meet with internship groups and things like that, and how much you're going to miss being able to gather together. And meanwhile, I had been working for a few years with a very similar community for healthcare missionaries. And so it's a conference called the Global Missions Health Conference. And around the conference is a whole community of healthcare missionaries. It's like, and obviously they're spread out all over the world. And I think in that community, there's around like 24,000 members or something like that. So it's a really big community of people doing missions in healthcare all around the world. And so a virtual platform makes a lot of sense when people are spread out all over. And so I've been working for this organization, and kind of had my hands in the mix of the platform they were using to make it all happen. And so as I was at residency, kind of hearing them talk about like, this is really valuable, being able to gather together, and reflecting on my own experience about just how meaningful being able to circle up for my internships with a small group of like-minded counselors who are all kind of trying to figure things out, and also being able to share their own wisdom with me. Like, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about a community like this is like we've all got a journey that's led us to becoming counselors that enables us to bring a level of wisdom to the table that we can all benefit from, a way of seeing things based on our own story, right? A way of integrating faith and therapeutic technique together that's just a little bit unique in my own experience compared to yours. And being able to like share that in internship was so meaningful to me, and being able to hear like, hey, I'm struggling with this client or this case, you know, how would you approach this? And being able to just have that direct feedback and dialogue with people is so meaningful. And trying to imagine moving into becoming a new professional without that was a little bit daunting to me. So I started talking with students about at residency, like, what if we could create something like this? And then Andrew got wind of it. So I sent him an email, and then the rest is kind of went from there. But I'll kind of share a little bit about how we see this playing out. The four of us have put our heads together as best we can and modeled quite a bit after the healthcare missions organization, just kind of as a template, but then kind of extrapolating that out for a unique use case for mental health professionals to build some resources to really solve these problems that we've just spent some time talking about here. So we'll talk about the core features here. And then I think a really important piece of this tonight is giving you guys an opportunity to speak into and help shape what's available when we launch in March. Okay. So, but this is kind of what we're planning and building inside the platform for you guys that should be ready by the time you join as a member. So the first thing, I mean, obviously the biggest thing we're trying to do here is groups and create the connection, like Melissa was just sharing. There's so many associations we can be a part of, and they're all resourcing us with amazing resources, helping us to, you know, be equipped to do our jobs well. And there's usually a bit of a connection component with those associations, but it's not their main thing. And so it doesn't really kind of flesh out that well. And there's not a lot of opportunity to really connect with and actually be able to find the right groups of counselors to connect with. And so that's I think where we have that's kind of our sweet spot, is helping make that connection piece, helping to facilitate that connection piece, and helping you guys and for us, I mean, this is honestly serving us as well, but helping us find like-minded professionals to connect with and groups to be a part of. And this is probably more for our own personal flourishing than it is our professional competency, which is a unique thing. What makes us a little bit different than an association. Really trying to come after like our own flourishing here. How do we pour into and help each other kind of be set up for flourishing and thriving as humans, so that we can also thrive in our careers as well. But kind of the person first mentality there. So some of that's like support groups. You know, if you're going through a hard time, and obviously we hope that you have a good support system outside with your family and friends and so on. But like Melissa was sharing, there's something unique about being able to talk to other mental health professionals about your own struggles as they're, you know, practicing and trying to go through the experience of helping people with struggles as they're struggling, right? We're all going to have that experience at some point. And so support groups, I think, is going to be a key component here. Consultation groups, just an obvious benefit there to be able to bounce ideas off of each other. You know, integrating the integrative therapy that we're doing is a challenging thing to figure out. It's not like this super easy thing, and there's always it's a very nuanced experience. And so being able to kind of bounce ideas off each other about cases and help each other kind of conceptualize things and get through things, I think it's another key type of group we could have here. Interest groups. This is where the system really helps simplify things. As you become a member, you'll be able to select things that you're uniquely interested in. And then in your member dashboard, the system will recommend things to you. So based on what you're looking for out of your membership, the system will recognize that and say, you should try this group or look at that group or connect with this person because you have a lot of the same interests and that kind of thing. So it's really facilitating that connection piece for everybody in the community. All right. So lots of different, I mean, honestly, the skies are a limit for the types of groups, but these are a few here that we've been talking about. Another component is going to be bi-monthly gatherings. So twice a month doing a community-wide gathering, just like we're doing here. And moving forward as the community launches, we're hoping that'll look a little bit like having expert guest speakers come in and talk for a little bit on something they're passionate about or an expert in. So there's a little bit of like learning component happening, maybe even doing some activities to help process different things, and then, equipping everybody with resources to help you flourish, again, as a person first, and then as a therapist as well. So hoping to do that community-wide gathering twice a month, and that'll be something that as a member, you just have free access to. All right. And then the resource library is another, I think, really beneficial piece. And this is where the community and your membership actually becomes really interactive. We're doing a lot on our end to produce really high quality content to help you feel equipped. Like maybe you're struggling with, I just can't figure out how to develop a self-care plan and fit it into my schedule with everything going on. Or maybe I can't quite figure out, like for me, I'm still in that phase of my professional kind of development where I'm trying to figure out my theoretical orientation and how I integrate my, biblical worldview with, what theories can I, integrate that with well. And so resources for that to just kind of help navigate those waters, to help kind of clear the path forward in your journey professionally and personally. So we're trying to come at kind of all those areas. So yeah, not focusing on just professional or just personal, but kind of that holistic resourcing you for flourishing in your life and career. But the cool piece about that is we're resourcing and we're trying to build a team of people to help resource. But at the same time, as a member, you have an opportunity to share resources. So this whole community it's set up and designed to be like a knowledge sharing community, like content generated by the community type of experience. So if you're, for example, like if you do research on a topic, you could write a blog or a short article or create a video or a one-pager document that kind of explains something that you think would be valuable to the community, and you can contribute that to the resource library. So that library just keeps growing, and over time it just keeps growing, and everybody in the community has an opportunity to contribute to that. All right. For a little bit of clarity there, some of it is free and accessible to the public. So like a public blog, there may even be a podcast that's associated with that at some point, YouTube videos. So all of that's kind of free and accessible. But then we're also developing member exclusive content, which are just pieces of content, be it articles or videos or trainings that are a lot more value added in. So it's not just a short kind of high level overview blog, but we'll kind of go deeper on some things and hopefully offer some member exclusive type of content that way. All right. The last piece here is challenges and stories. This kind of just gives you an opportunity to, it's so hard in a virtual space to feel like you have like things that like activate you as a member. But that's the beauty of this type of platform, is to really activate you, right? And give you opportunity to actually feel like you're a part of something and you're doing something, and there's things to like help you move forward towards flourishing. And so challenges are a big piece of that. For example, and this will be kind of a growing catalog of challenges as well. But for example, let's say you're struggling with kind of the physical well-being side of of kind of your journey. We could have some things in there like a January 5K challenge, right? And so if you're like, you know what, I'm going to accept that challenge in the community. I'm going to train for a 5K, and I'm going to share my story of that experience in the community, and then get direct feedback and encouragement and support around taking on that challenge and having completed it. And so just a really cool way to kind of gamify that experience to some extent. And also just to challenge yourself and to encourage each other to move the ball down the field to our own flourishing. Those challenges can cover the whole spectrum of our total well-being. So some of that's, I'm struggling to establish a rhythm of Sabbath in my family or in my own life. And so creating challenges around that, like, you know what, for the next month, I'm going to do Sabbath every Saturday or something like that. Just ways to kind of help motivate yourself to move the ball down the field and to get support and encouragement along the way from the community. Okay. Last thing on stories, they're not directly tied to challenges. It's something you can pop in. There's like a ever-growing catalog of stories. So if you have a success with a client, obviously we're going to protect, client privacy and things like that. But being able to just share, hey, I've been working with this client for so long, and we had this breakthrough today. It felt really good to finally reach that point. Just wanted to share. We can always be sharing those success stories or any kind of story you want to share. So, all right. So that's a bit of what we've been building. Future things, just real quick, that might come down the pipe would be like virtual and in-person retreats, conferences, e-courses, and trainings. And those are some of the things that we're talking about. But at this point, would love to give you guys an opportunity to speak into that and maybe share just briefly if there's things that you'd really like to see available either when we launch or at least some point in the future here.
I don't know where I'm at. Can you hear me?
Well, I don't have any ideas
Mhm.
as of right now, but I'm really excited with me being a new student. And well, I'm not a new student to Colorado Christian, but I'm a new student in the master's program, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes the classes do get rough and challenging. And with us being in group is very supportive. And sometimes that's all you need is a group member. So I'm really thankful because you can learn from being in a group. But this right here is also something positive to lean into. Even if it's just asking questions or becoming burnt out in the classroom. Just knowing somebody understands and help motivate you get to, your goal, which is to graduate and to be able to help others. So I'm really excited about it and having positive people and like a community to look forward to and to speak with and engage with and learn more stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something too that I'm part of. It's a group called Survivors Speak,
Mhm.
and they have like wellness Wednesdays once a month. It's national, and then and it's volunteering, and then they also have like chapter meetings for each state that I'm a part of too. But what I wanted to say was that they have like icebreakers. Like when you first start the meeting, they'll have like an icebreaker that kind of like open, like walk, so that you can feel like welcome. And the icebreakers really help a whole lot too. It'd be very different. It could be like for 5 minutes, like they may ask a question, like explain what a word is to you. That kind of like opens up. And we also begin with prayer and end with prayer too.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. Thanks for adding that in. It sounds like such a great idea.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's a lot of great things coming in the chat. Thanks for posting there. I know it's hard to jump in when we've got 40 some people on a call, but anybody else want to share anything here? All right. How about yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say during my internship, I had a really challenging client, a little boy who just wouldn't talk. And at first it seemed like it was just trauma, and everyone around me was just saying, don't make him talk. It's just trauma. But then in one of my internship supervision groups, another part of my cohort was working with kids who have selective mutism. She started asking me a few questions, and turns out, sure enough, this little boy, that's what he was experiencing. That doesn't mean he didn't have any trauma. I'm sure there was some in there, but there was certainly no way to get to it while he's dealing with severe selective mutism. And just having other people who have other experiences, who are, working in a specialty of some kind that can speak into that in that way. That poor little boy, there's no one in this area who works with selective mutism. So that was okay. Time for me to do some research and go figure this out. Thank you for speaking into me, because that would have been the last thing I would have thought of. And this is the kind of community where I would hope we would find that kind of interaction, where we have the collective wisdom and resources that could really be a blessing, not just to our clients, but to ourselves as well. I'm just really grateful for y'all doing this, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour here. If there are questions, let me get through some next steps here. If we have a few minutes at the very end, we might be able to have some time for some questions. But I want to make sure you guys are equipped with some next steps. All right. So looking forward, we're going to do another gathering like this on February 27th, Thursday, the 27th at 6 p.m. Central Time. Again, all right. That one will be a little bit less like informative about like what we're planning, obviously, and maybe a little bit more of an experience of what you might experience at one of those bi-monthly gatherings. So it might look a little bit more that direction. And then all of you, I think most of you have probably already joined the wait list, which is how we kind of got in touch with you, and you kind of found your way here. If you haven't, I'm sure there's a few of you who haven't joined the wait list. We'd encourage you to do that. You're going to get a 10% discount off the first year of membership if you do that. All right. And you can just go to, in fact, I should have put it on here. It's Remnant Counselor Collective.com, and that homepage will give you information on how to join that page and kind of what pricing is for a membership. All right. Andrew, thanks for putting it in there. Andrew just put it in the chat. All right. But I think most of you have done that. We'll inform you. We'll make sure that you get, I think we've already sent it out, the discount code for to enter in when you actually create your account, but we'll make sure that goes out in several more emails so you don't miss it. And we're going to give you that coupon code will expire, I think, like the day of launch, which is March 18th. So we're going to open up that registration for the week before that launch, where that discount code will be available to you guys. All right. That way you guys can get in there, create those accounts, get that 10% off before the community launches and goes live. Okay. But yeah, that's our encouragement to you. We'll be communicating in emails about when that is open for registering and setting up your account. But just keep an eye out for that and mark your calendar. All right. Any questions
Hey,
for
look,
us?
we should probably say something about the social media accounts too, attached to Remnant.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah.
Do you
So
want me to do it?
yeah, I might be able to do it here. So I need to remember what they are. So we're obviously a brand new community. We're trying to build up our social media accounts. Right now we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, and X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And we're also on Instagram. All right. Well, what I can do is send an email to all attendees here with links to those sites, but we'd love for you guys to follow there. That'll really help us build those channels up and build awareness in kind of the surrounding community about what we're doing. And that's important because the more people that are involved, the better of experience it's going to be for everybody. That's just the nature of how these virtual communities work. The more involvement there is, the more resources start to build up, the more groups we can build, the more types of groups we can have, the more types of events and resources we can offer. So definitely do that. Follow us on all those and share it with people so we can get a pretty good community going here by the time we launch in March. That would be really appreciated. All right. Any questions for us before we wrap up? All right.
Oh, I do have one.
Yeah.
So my internship site is pretty toxic and pretty difficult. But I have a fellow Christian intern who just started, and we're kind of trying to encourage each other. She goes to a Christian college based out of New Mexico. Is this going to be open for all Christian counselors or just CCU students?
Yeah, we're actually opening it to all Christian counselors. We're actually opening it also to basically anybody in our field, whether it's psychiatrists, PsyD, psychiatric nurses and PAs, anybody that's working in this field who's a Christian. All right. So anybody who's doing that therapeutic work in any capacity, social workers, all the different licenses that are kind of around the same work. All right.
Yeah, don't be shy with sharing it. The more you share it, the better for us. And the bigger the group gets, and like Luke said, the more resources and people you can bounce stuff off of and connect with.
Yeah.
Do you think would be affected negatively by the new administration because of the multicultural?
Can you clarify that question? I'm sorry.
Do you think because of the new administration that's in, they're like banning or taking away from those who practice the multicultural climate? Would that affect this new start?
I think that's more about DEI and less about multiculturalism. So I don't think it'll affect us.
Yeah.
At all. And
very, very unlikely. Yeah.
And we're not a government organization anyway, so it won't have any standing with us.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Would love to maybe wrap up in prayer. Brian, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'd love to put you on the spot at the same time.
I'd be happy to put on the spot. Yeah, no problem.
Close this out.
Yeah, thank you. Father, just thank you so much for the chance for all of us to be able to come together here tonight. And we just trust that as we gather in your name, that you're with us in deep, profound ways, and that you are between us. And we pray that you will allow us to have connections and a community that is life-giving for us, and that you would, through this community and connection, meet each of us and in all the ways that we need that personally, professionally. We just entrust all of this to you and to your care in Jesus' name. Amen.